and anyone can follow that. But just so you know, that's how we will be receiving public comment. So Mr. Cooney will be letting us know, and we will have an opportunity at the end to look over those comments. We will only be dealing with comments from the board today, and of course we will be looking over all comments from the public. Right, sorry, I'm getting back to my agenda. So Jim, if there are any comments, please let us know, and again, forward those to us. It's a little bit different scenario for dealing with public comment, but thank you everyone for going along with us. Item 2.01 is discussion of superintendent candidate interviews and the procedure to move forward. So as everyone knows, we have been in this process of searching for a new superintendent to replace Mr. Pearson for quite some time now. I had a visit with Dr. Oliver yesterday, and before I discuss that, I'd just like to say thank you to everyone who has participated in this process. We had so many people watch the videos, so many people comment, and it's just been great to see the participation from all of the communities in our district. We've really had a lot of input, and that's been really helpful. We appreciate the questions people have asked, the comments that have been made, and just their insight. So thank you to everyone who has done that. In talking to Dr. Oliver, her instructions were, if we have a particular front runner, number one, that the board has agreed on as a vast majority, that we can go ahead and decide if we want to move forward in the process with just one bid, and it will save, you know, time and money, which are all of the essence, of course. And if that's the case, then we can just move forward with one candidate, but that's up to the board if that's how we want to do that. And of course, this meeting is not a meeting where we are selecting someone as our superintendent. This is a meeting where we are discussing whether we choose to move forward with a candidate in their interview process. So with that, I'm going to, Kassi collected the rankings of the board, and I'm going to go ahead and let Kassi, and the board members have seen these. She forwarded to them. I'm going to go ahead and let Kassi just let us know if there was a clear front runner and who that was. So Kassi, would you just go ahead and put that out there for us, please?
Yes, it seemed fairly unanimous that Dr. Michelle Robinson was the front runner. Okay, thank you, Kassi, and thank you for being so helpful with tabulating everything through this process. This has been quite a process. So at this point, I will open it up for comments and discussion from the board.
I have a question, Teresa. Are we going to be, whoever the candidate may end up being or whatever, are we going to offer the same contract that we have offered Mr. Pearson? That is something we will negotiate with whoever our finalist is. Candace. Okay, so is this the place where you want to have comments based on, we're just only going to decide who we're bringing back? Is that it? Or are we commenting any at all on the candidates? So the purpose of this meeting is we're going to determine who we're going to continue on with in this process for the superintendent. So as far as things like contracts, that's not something we will discuss right now. It is just who we want to continue on with the interview process. And as Kassi said, we have a fairly clear one individual, and that is Dr. Michelle Robinson. So again, I'll open it up for comments from the board on that.
I think that definitely as I look at the candidates, I think that we need to get Dr. Robinson here. Any questions that any of the board members may have specific to her? I think the face-to-face approach is going to be a lot better. So I'd like to see the board pursue having Dr. Oliver contact Dr. Robinson and make arrangements to come to Elko so we can see firsthand and see exactly what the candidate is about.
I concur with Jim.
Maybe Teresa, you could talk about a plan to get her here, if that's, because that's right now in the current state of affairs, that could be a pretty good undertaking.
Absolutely. So I've talked to Dr. Oliver about that, and part of our contract with her was that NASB would and Dr. Oliver would bring any candidates in that needed to, that may not be local. They would bring them in to continue the interview process. And so what is going to happen is we'll have Dr. Oliver, if the board, moves to make this happen, we'll have Dr. Oliver contact Dr. Robinson, and she will make arrangements to get her here. We will have to follow all the same protocol that is being followed statewide, really nationwide. We'll have to maintain appropriate social distance. Everyone that meets Dr. Robinson, unless of course our governor is changing anything right now while we're talking, everyone that meets Dr. Robinson will wear a mask. We will still only gather with small groups, not large groups. So it's going to be a little bit different scenario than what we had hoped to have, where we had hoped to be able to engage a lot of different groups with Dr. Robinson or whoever our front runner candidate is. I'm saying that because she's the one that is our front runner at the moment. We had hoped to engage a lot of different groups, and we're going to have to be a little more creative in how we do that, just so that we can still give her the opportunity to see the district, give the people in the district the opportunity to meet her, and that gives everyone an idea of whether this is the right, a right fit for all of us. So does that help answer your question, Ira?
Yes.
I have a question, Teresa. When you say touring the school district, what all does that encompass? I mean, is she going to have the benefit of seeing Owyhee, for instance, or Wendover, or any of the outlying schools?
All right, so when we were discussing this in the past, before COVID-19, we had talked about our candidate, if they needed to fly in or wherever they were coming from, driving, flying, being local, if they were flying in, we would try to fly them into, say, Salt Lake. And then they'd drive to Wendover. We would have some kind of community engagement activity in Wendover, and then move on to Wells, and just with our timeline, maybe try to drive down through Ruby Valley and let our, someone who's not familiar with our really rural schools go ahead and see that there's a school there, and try to kind of have a driving day, a tour of the district. Like I say, we're going to have to be a little more creative on how we do that and who we engage in the process, but we do want her to see the communities that are involved. So we kind of need to look at how much we can fit into the timeline while she is here. And like I say, get to Ruby Valley, maybe come over Harrison Pass, go through Jigs, get to Elko, get to Carlin. There's a lot of driving. I'm trying to figure out if we can get to Owyhee and Jackpot, or if that would have to be perhaps on a second day. I feel like anyone who has not lived in the district, and a lot of board members expressed this previously, should really get a feel for the district. So we're just going to have to be creative in making sure we can try to get a real feel for that, and open to suggestions for who we should invite to come. I would love to have members of the public, of course, meet our candidate, as well as administrators, teachers, whoever would like to be involved, we just have to figure out how to make that all fit with the guidelines that we're currently under.
So just so I'm clear, Teresa, and just so the public's clear, this is not a job offer. We're just bringing her to see if she thinks that this may be a good fit, and that doesn't exclude the other 3 candidates from possibly being considered if she thinks this is not a good fit.
You are absolutely correct, Brian. That is the perfect assessment and the perfect way to word it. Thank you.
And then the other thing I was going to bring up, and I want it to be out there for the public and for consideration from the board as well. I think she's a great top candidate. I just want us to maybe consider and talk about as well with the budget crisis and what the governor may be talking about right now. Would anybody, I don't necessarily want to go here because I don't necessarily want to lose the process that we've had so far, but could we suspend the search and not fill the position to save money for the upcoming budget year for 2021? Did you have any talks with Deb about that possibility?
I did have talks with Deb about that, and there have been some other, districts in different states that have had the same discussion, and they've all decided, if we need a new superintendent, we need strong leadership. We need someone that's really going to come in and do what needs to be done for the district. And so she says all of those conversations have ended in districts deciding we have been pursuing a new superintendent for whatever the reason may be, and we're going to go ahead and continue with that and make sure we've got strong leadership in place. And my thoughts are we've got a lot of things in the air right now with the finances, with COVID-19, all kinds of different things. And personally, I feel like with Mr. Pearson retiring, we're going to need someone that's going to come in and be ready to take over the district and lead us through the next several years. And I feel like suspending this process may hold us back instead of helping us to move forward. Thoughts from the board?
My thoughts are that if we suspend, we can start doing another, 3 months, 4 months of activities, because if we suspend it, we're probably not going to have any of our candidates there. So we're going to have to do a complete another interview process and everything. It's time consuming. And for me, being retired is probably better than some of the others, but it's time consuming. And I think that as far as we've gotten with these, we should continue.
I agree with Teresa that we definitely ought to. We definitely ought to pick a superintendent, because nobody knows what direction this thing's going to go, and if we halfway through it have to pick a new one, we'd be better off starting off getting that part done with. So we've got a superintendent in place that's involved in the entire process. And so we, not 6 months from now or a year from now, scrambling trying to hire a superintendent and in the middle of something we don't know what's coming.
I agree
Brian,
with...
if we suspend, if we do suspend our search for now, then who takes over as interim superintendent? That would be my question.
I would assume that we would have to make that decision as a board, who would be the interim superintendent, if we went down that road.
And picking an interim superintendent, they're not going to do it for nothing. I mean, we've got to pay a superintendent regardless of whether it's an interim or one we hire.
Yeah, you're just saving from the position that you're not putting in. I just worry about, there's a lot up in the air, granted, and I just worry about teachers having to take on fuller classrooms and jobs, of course. As someone who formerly had to sit at a negotiation table and look at people that we may have to cut in the district, it wasn't an easy process, and I don't look forward to having other people having to do that again.
I can appreciate Brian's position. I know we're asking a lot of our teachers with the budget shortfall and whatever COVID-19 does to our finances. But I feel like if we don't move forward and we don't have somebody in place, particularly a strong superintendent, it makes our county that much more vulnerable on the state level, because we'll be starting playing the game a year behind, and I don't like that idea, because potentially the taxation impact for our county is going to spill over for at least a year, most likely longer, and so we're going to be in a flat fund situation from the state funding, and then we're going to have a deficit from county funding, county tax funding. So I think choosing a strong candidate now and getting them in place strengthens our position with the state, especially one that is familiar with lobbying on the state level. And there was another thought I had, and it just went out of my brain. I wanted to speak particularly to Mrs. Robinson. That's what it is. I know there's several superintendent positions that are open near Las Vegas. I don't know that that's necessarily where her grandkids are, but I know she wants to be near them. And I know at least one of the other candidates is applying for positions in those states. So we could potentially lose very good candidates by not moving forward now.
I agree with the other board members that are expressing that we need to have some a strong leader at the helm as we approach this. So would you like for me to take a stab at making a motion, Madam Chairman? Okay. I move that we direct Dr. Oliver to make arrangements to get Dr. Robinson here to Elko County and to follow through and create a tour of our district for Dr. Robinson and give the board members an opportunity to find out more about that particular candidate, and then we move forward with this search. Also, there have been no emails coming in to this particular point. I'll keep you posted on that. Thank you.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion from the board?
And this will be, Teresa, this will be a time as well for those public questions that we got on that other form to be addressed to this candidate?
Yes, absolutely. Just to clarify, so when we bring Dr. Robinson here, we are hoping to make opportunities for people from the public, like I say, administration, teachers, to have the opportunity to ask her questions, to meet her, and also for the board to interview her in more depth with more specific questions. I know each board member had more specific questions of each candidate that they wanted to pursue, and so this will be an opportunity to ask those more in-depth questions, present her with scenarios to see how she would handle things, and that will also be part of this whole process. So any other discussion from the board? We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? Chair votes aye, and that motion carries. So we will direct Dr. Oliver to make arrangements to get Dr. Robinson here so that we can continue this process. Any other discussion from the board on the...
What,
Teresa.
Is there any idea on the, oh, sorry, Kassi, go ahead.
I just wanted to make sure that was unanimous. My internet kind of zipped out.
Yes, it was unanimous. Thank you for double checking, Kathy. You know, every once in a while the internet kind of goes and then it's a little hard to make sure you heard everything. Ira, go ahead.
What, any idea on a timeline of getting her here?
When I talked to Dr. Oliver, she said, as you know, whoever says this whole process, you know, whoever needed to come in or whenever we needed to do this, it would be as soon as possible. Okay. We have a regularly scheduled board meeting next week. If it is possible to get her here by then, we could include that on the board agenda as far as interviewing her during the board meeting. It would obviously be great to have her here during a regular board meeting and see some of our regular board business, even though it's a little bit different at the moment. It feels a little different, but it will just be as soon as possible. So Dr. Oliver will make those arrangements, and then we'll be in contact with the board, with the tour, the plans, the interview time, etc. It looks like Jim is ready. Thank you.
We're ready. We're ready for the tour.
All right, awesome. All right, any other discussion from the board?
I just want to personally say thank you to the people that reached out to me via email or just personal conversation from a distance that I bumped into.
I have a few concerns about the interview. If we do follow the guidelines of everyone 6 foot apart, if we all end up at the district office, there's no way we can do it unless we move into individual chairs. And then I don't know if the mics can pick us up. I assume that it'll be recorded. I'm not positive, but the other thing is, depending on the mask, some of those really muffle. And it's hard to understand people. Well, I don't know if I would prefer to have it face-to-face, but I don't know if that's really possible.
And Keith, I understand your concerns, and we're going to just have to do the best we can with what we've got. I'm hoping on the tour, say, for example, going to the different towns. Let's see, Jim, are you the board member that represents Carlin?
I think I am.
Okay.
I think that I am. Yeah.
Okay. So here's just an example and a thought that came from Dr. Oliver's. So say when we make a stop in Carlin, Jim, as the board member that represents Carlin, would be in attendance there. When we get to Wells, Candace would be the board member there. You know, Brian, Tammie, everybody, we would make sure that a board member was present at each of the different locations, and we can kind of split that out. That it doesn't necessarily have to be an area you represent, but just so that each board member will have an opportunity to meet, not in the interview process, and then also as well other members of the community that will be able to be there. And Keith, I agree with you that it would be great to just be able to do a face-to-face interview in the boardroom, but this may be the format we will have to do. And regardless, when it comes to the official interview, it will be recorded. I know Max said the mics that are spread throughout the boardroom pick up things really well, even if we have to spread out in the boardroom to do that. So again, we're we're relying on our tech guys to help us make it through this whole situation, and we appreciate all of their hard work. Mac and his crew have really made sure all of this has been functional, and I appreciate that. And I will echo Brian's sentiment that I really appreciate the people who have reached out to me personally with thoughts on the interviews, and it was awesome to see all the input that came on the interviews and just the number of people that participated. I've had people that have lived in this district for a long time that have said, I don't think we've ever had that much participation in the selection of a superintendent. And so I really appreciate all of the communities being involved. And I really appreciate all the candidates that we had. I think we had 4 very excellent candidates, and it was great to go through this process with all of them and really appreciate their time and their efforts. And if Dr. Robinson is not, just gets here and decides this isn't the district for me, we are grateful to know we've got some other very qualified candidates that are on our list. So that being said, if there are no other, are there any other comments from the board before we move on?
I have 2 comments. One, since you and I both kind of represent Spring Creek, if you want to do Spring Creek and send me someplace else, I don't care. It's fine with me. The other thing is I was real glad about all the comments. I've read all 157 of them, so they know. And the questions that I am going to ask Dr. Oliver came from those comments.
All right. Thank you, Keith. And just Dr. Oliver said, my job as board president is I am supposed to be with our candidate all day. So Keith, you can have Spring Creek because I guess I'll be the driver for Dr. Oliver, I guess. So we'll make sure everybody has the opportunity to meet her. And of course, where central office isn't really completely that's pretty much shut down right now, we're still going to make sure that there's an opportunity for everybody at central office to participate in this as well. Again, this is going to be kind of a fun little organization process to get everything done with our current regulations, but we will make it happen. We're going to be creative and just make good things happen. All right, any other questions or thoughts from the board? All right, we'll move on to item 3.01, comments from the public. Jim, did you receive anything?
No comments to this point.
Teresa, I just wanted to say before, too, thank you to what you're doing, because you've been a great conduit for information from Deb to us and trying to sort through this process, since it's the first time, obviously, that I've gone through this. So thank you for what you're doing as well.
Well, thank you. You guys have been an awesome board. That, like I say, there's been a lot of paperwork to go through, a lot of watching of candidates and participating and preparing questions and everything else. And I really appreciate the board and all the work that the board has done. So thank you. We will move on to item 4.1, adjournment of the meeting.
I move we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. All in favor of adjournment, please say aye.
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 Let us know.
Any opposed, nay? The chair votes aye, and we are adjourned.